Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. Very excited about today's guest. I have been paired up with him in a coaching boot camp and gotten to know him and admire him, and I know you will too. He knows what it means to thrive no matter what the circumstances are. Jim Godwin is a Marine Corps veteran, and he's also a top producing realtor in the Kansas City metro. He has sold over 2,000 homes in the past 18 years. That is more than most agents sell in their entire lifetime. Guys, to put it into context, the average agent sells 8 homes a year. You do the math. He is producing like a crazy man. He's also renovated over 50 homes. He owns dozens of rental properties. He specializes in helping investors. Really, he knows that world inside and out. Buyers, sellers, even those facing foreclosure. He's moved 21 times in his life. So that means he's seen just about every kind of market and every kind of mindset all over the world. Jim really is set apart because of his life experience and his commitment to helping others thrive. He's a mentor, a coach, a husband to his beautiful wife, Kelly, a dad to their adorable little 2-year-old son, Osen, and a dog lover. Hey, Spencer, love you, boy. Peace out. He also runs marathons. Let that one sink in for a minute. He runs marathons. That was plural. I did say it plurally. He connects really deeply with his neighbors. He knows how to appreciate the little things in life. You know, like a good movie or time at a local park with his dog and his family. So today we're going to focus on something that affects you and me and everyone around us, and that is mindset. If you've ever struggled with negative thoughts or felt stuck in your own head, this episode is for you. By the end of this conversation, my hope is that you're going to walk away with an actual roadmap on how to stop living like most people, which is mostly negative thoughts. Start thinking your way to an epic life. Let's dive in. So, Jim, my gosh, you have been exposed to people so much in your 21 moves, being in the Marine Corps, selling a couple thousand homes, and you get intimately involved with those people. You get intimately involved with your vendors and all those people. What have you learned about mindset?
That's a big question. That's a big question because there's so much that encompasses that. And I guess if I had to boil it down to one or two things, it would be that um, the way that I am with myself is the way that I'm going to interact with other people. And so the relationship that I have with me has to come first. Because if my relationship with myself isn't functioning properly, then none of the relationships that I'm able to be in with other people are not going to function properly. Because go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm just agreeing with you at the end. That's so cool that you just busted out the gate with that. Like that is the foundation, and very few people ever get to talking about it, let alone open with it. So please keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so like I see this in other people, and I guess because I've focused on this so much and I've worked on it so much in my life that I see it in other people, and it mirrors back to me very like brightly, and that's another one of the big benefits of working on your own mindset and working on yourself is that you start to see the reflections of all these things coming back at you all the time. And so when I'm interacting with somebody, or if I meet somebody for the first time, I'm able to see exactly what's going on with them, and able to operate on that level and meet them where they are so that I can have an actual real conversation with them. And I've only got to that point because I've worked on myself so much. I've worked on these things in my own life enough to be able to see it in other people and then be able to talk to them on that level.
That's so big. That's so big. And your your unique experience of having so many relationships is something I don't think most people could even come close to comprehending. Like, how is it possible, Jim? How is that possible that you really truly do love all of these people? How could you love that many people?
Because I mean, I guess there's a couple of different answers to that question. Um, how do I love so many people? Because I have gotten to the point in my life where I have realized that those people are me, right? The things that you notice in other people are the things that are within you, because the only way that you can notice those things are because they reflect to you, they relate to you. So if I'm noticing that somebody isn't looking me in the eye, if I notice that somebody isn't telling me the truth about something, or beating around the bush, or acting like they don't want to have a clear conversation, or ignoring my phone call, or whatever that may be, I notice those things because those are things that affect me, right? And if they're affecting me, and they're in and I'm able to see it, that means that it's something that I'm also working with, right? So if I, I think what happens mostly is that people have a conversation with somebody, and then they notice things that they don't like, and they're like, I don't like that about that person, right? Really, what that conversation should be is, I'm noticing that in the other person because that is what I'm also doing, and I need to clean that up in my life so that I can affect that relationship.
That is next level stuff, mister. That is so big. And you just put it so simply.
Mhm.
Great job. So, this is totally not where I was going to go. I know that that has not been the case all of your life.
Oh my God, no.
So, what was it that humbled you or broke you or whatever it was that got you to this point?
Uh, how deep you want to go with
Let's go.
it? Yeah. Um, so I've been through a lot of things in my life, right? I've been through a lot of things that have allowed so I've been through a lot of things that most people would call trauma or difficult times, right? I've been through addiction, right? I at 36 years old and a successful business owner, in the same year, I went through a divorce, two bankruptcies, and a foreclosure, and becoming an opiate addict at 36 years old. And that was in 2014 is when that started. And I was selling over 100 homes a year, and all of that stuff happened at the same time. I had a 20 unit single family rental portfolio that disappeared, and my entire business collapsed just like that.
Whew.
And um, at the time, right, that was an extremely obviously difficult situation. And I didn't know at the time if I was actually going to live through that. It was a lot. Like I didn't want to live through that. It was very, very difficult. Sometimes when you go through things like that, it propels you into other things, right? And now looking back on that, that time in my life shifted me into a completely new direction. And I was able to take that circumstance and turn it into something positive. And when after I got clean and after I started unraveling all of that stuff, through all of that, I started learning how to take care of myself. I started learning what self-care meant. I started learning what um, what humanity is it really is, like the getting into the essence and the heart of what it means to be human, because I just unraveled my entire life, and I basically had the opportunity to start from scratch. And I said, if I'm starting from scratch, right, if I'm like at 36 or 37 at that point, if I'm now a new human being that has an infinite level of possibilities, where can I take it? And I treated it as like a completely new fresh start. And I started digging into what it means to get to the heart of humanity.
Okay, we have to go down this road because that's why our listeners are here, Jim. They want to know, what can I do? What are the first things that you did? Can you walk us through how you got from, I can't imagine any too much more rock bottom. And yes, there could have been more. You know, you could have been losing limbs and there could have been more, but that's pretty doggone rock bottom. How did you climb out?
Mhm. You first have to realize that you have to take care of yourself first. It's like, it's really true about having to put on your own mask first, even before your friends and family and kids and everything, right? You have to take care of yourself first. And so that means different things for different people. Some of the common things that are really helpful for a large number of people is to start some sort of a daily morning routine. You have to set yourself up for the day for success. My morning routine looks like some sort of exercise, then some sort of Zen meditation, sometimes breath work, and then reading, and then focusing on what the day is going to look like and how I can best achieve the day. So starting with some sort of a morning routine that incorporates a practice that centers you. That's the most important part, is that you need something that's going to recenter you so that you're not starting the day off balance, if that makes sense.
So in all of that morning routine, one thing I did not hear you mention was your cell phone.
Yeah. 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 You
Okay,
gotta
but
put
you
it
but
down.
you wait. You are an ultra successful. I'm not trying to blow you up. I want our listeners to get it. Like really, really get this. You are an ultra successful businessman. You have a happy wife. You have a 2-year-old son. You have all kinds of things. You've got all kinds of businesses. You're flipping homes. You're doing it all, right? And you don't get on your cell phone first thing.
I mean, it's taken me a long time to get to that point because you think intuitively that um, you have to be on at all times. What you realize over time is that you can't, that's not sustainable. You can't do that. Until you give yourself the freedom to recharge and recenter yourself, you're actually being a detriment. You know what I mean? Do you know that like all of the Fortune 500 CEOs, do you know that um they incorporate a practice of 30% of their day is for self-care?
No, I did
30,
not know that.
30%.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
because they see the value in it. They see the value. And like when you think of a CEO, you think of somebody that has been able to figure out what actual leverage means, because they've been able to leverage their entire, like, think about how much they have to do to make sure that their company is successful and growing at all times. Think about the responsibility that they have to maintain the growth of a company, a huge company. That is a lot more responsibility and work that I will ever have in my life. But yet they see the value in dedicating 30% of their life to self-care, right?
And I would venture to say because you are an entrepreneur, you have more pressure than they do. To some extent, you have freedom.
Yeah. No, we have more pressure because we have less leverage.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't have the financial backing. I don't have the manpower. I don't have shareholders, like they're able to maximize leverage, which is really the whole game, right? As
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, is figuring out how to pull the right levers at the right time.
Okay, so let's get back to the whole mindset. Um, the mindset of someone who built it up, blew it all, and had to deal with the fact that they did it themselves. How did you climb out? Morning routine. Give everybody, guys, please take notes. Please do not blow over this morning routine. Check out the Miracle Morning. There's a whole bunch of them for all kinds of different deals, but check that out and incorporate that. If someone that you respect gives you advice, unless it's immoral or illegal or unreasonable, try it. And if you can use my respect for this man and just try the things he says today and walk away from here, this could be the most life-changing podcast you have ever listened to. Because, guys, it's not about listening while you're driving down the road. This is one you might want to pull over. You might want to take notes and write it down. Get the Miracle Morning and incorporate it. This man not only is doing it for himself and his own proof, but he's looking to people who have accomplished more than he has in his eyes. I would venture to say maybe that's the opposite. But either way, listen to him. Okay, so you have a morning routine. What else? How did you climb out? And how did you go from being that messed up to getting a morning routine? I mean, was it quick? Was it a quick thing or was it gradual?
It was a lot of work, and it took a lot because I dug into a very deep hole, right? Don't suggest that for anyone. It was just the path that I seemed to have to go down, you know? So if you didn't bury yourself into the hole that I did, then it would take a lot less time and energy to dig out of, right? So it did take some time. But being on the other side of it and looking back, in hindsight, one of the things that took so long for me that I didn't see at the time was continuing to be shameful about where I had been. Right. So if I would have let go of the shame and the regret and the guilt immediately, I would have dug out way sooner. Okay. So the shame that you hold and the regret that you have will keep you pushed down like you have no idea. And so the sooner that you can learn to let go of shame and just let what happened happen and not create a story around what happened and get away from the past, not push the past, but accept the past enough that you don't have to think about it anymore. And allow the shame and the guilt to dissipate, you will be able to move on so much quicker than I did and should have. One of the practices around that I incorporated that was extremely successful and beneficial for my life and my business actually was um, so for a long time I didn't tell anybody that I was a recovering addict. It took me a long time to even tell close friends and family, let alone strangers, what I had done because I was filled with shame about it. Um, the thing that got me through that the quickest was I had a coach that convinced me to write a story about where I had been and what I have now I'm starting to overcome at that point, and tie that back into how that has changed my life to the point where I'm going to now service you in a different way that I didn't have access to before. And I wrote that in a marketing piece and I mailed it out to my entire database.
Oh my gosh, I'm tingling thinking of the responses that you got.
I mean, it was life changing, life changing. First, because in order to become the person that can mail that was a feat, right? Like I had to become someone that I wasn't. And at the time that I sent it, I wasn't that person. So imagine doing something that's completely out of your own character and how that feels, right? I was terrified, terrified. From that point, going to getting the responses that I got, which was an overwhelming love and support, and getting new clients and new business from it because people are like, I can't believe that you're able to tell this story to people like this. And I want to be around somebody that is able to do this. I have complete faith and trust in you.
And
See,
you
hearing
know
that,
that they can.
huh?
You know that they can. I mean, you
Right,
know that you have their back.
right,
Like no one could imagine. Wow,
right.
this is such rich stuff.
Yeah, and then so like then hearing that response over and over again took me from being in the mindset of shame and guilt into not having that anymore, right? So so to break that down to something that's helpful, learn how to jump without knowing what the outcome is going to be. You have to disassociate yourself from an attachment to an outcome. You have to just be able to jump on blind faith and know that you're strong enough to deal with it and be able to handle whatever comes at you. And irregardless of the response or what comes back at you, being able to accept what comes in without any judgment from it and seeing what happens is extremely important because that alone, that practice, if you do that enough, will completely change your life.
Jim, I am just wowed by it. It brings me to Brene Brown,
Mhm.
and
It
and
had a big influence on me.
of course she had to have. I knew it. I mean, I knew it because you can't. You when the thing that made the biggest difference to me with her is when she said, when you see someone on stage who is being incredibly vulnerable, do you think that they're wimpy or something like that? I don't remember her exact words, but it was like, no, you're just going, wow, look at the courage of that person that's up there on stage saying, you know, I did this, I
Yeah,
own this.
yeah. And
Phew.
then, it's a really good point, Kara, because do you know what happened after I did that exercise and I sent that piece out? I came to the realization, this is extremely important. I came to the realization that the impact that I have on the world and the people in my life is more important to me than my own feelings, right? When I realized that the positive impact that I can have on people outweighs tenfold what my personal feeling is about something, I was blown away when I discovered that for myself for the first time. Because then think about the freedom that gives you. It opens up an entirely new world because then you start to realize, oh, I can do these things because the impact that I have is way more important to me than my own personal feelings about it. And how insignificant are my own and selfish are my own personal feelings holding back from what is giving something positive in the world that can change somebody's life. In my story, coming back from addiction, telling people what I've done impacts so many people in such a positive way that I'm selfish now if I don't tell that story, if I don't show people that it's possible to overcome this stuff. And so, yeah, that's an important lesson. Another really important one is learning how to give without expecting anything in return. Um, that's a practice that I try to do every single day because um, the act of giving is incredible. It's an amazing experience because when you do this a lot, you start to realize that I can completely change my entire being, my entire way of thinking, my mindset, everything. Everything changes the second that I try to give more than I'm taking. So like, so I know that when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling like I don't want to do something or whatever, because we all get into these things, right? We all get into these states of mind where you just don't feel good. You don't feel like doing anything. I know from past experience from doing this so much that if I just give something to somebody without expecting anything back, it's gone immediately. My anxiety is gone. My depression is gone. All of that just disappears. So getting into the practice of continuously giving and just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, always giving more than you ever expect in return, is a very, very beneficial practice. There's a really good book to read called The Go-Giver.
Love it.
The Go-Giver is one of my favorite books. They also have a real estate version for those real estate agents out there. It's called the Go-Giver Real Estate Agent or something like that. Do you remember the author of those
I
books?
I don't, but
Yeah,
I those books highly recommend them.
highly recommend it. It's one of the first books that taught me how to do this as a practice, to be able to give more than you ever receive. Um, and so like we're not like people think that you're going to disappear depression. Like we're never going to get rid of the things that hold us back, right? You're always, every single human being on the planet deals with the same stuff, right? We all deal with depression. We all deal with anxiety. We all deal with wanting to go into our little cocoons and not do anything. Every single person does this. We're not unique. You're not unique. I'm not unique. Humankind is basically all the same. We all have stuff that we're dealing with. We're all suffering on some level. That will never go away, right? So people think that they're just going to do something someday to get rid of this thing that's bothering them. That will never happen. That will never happen. The only thing that you can ever change is your perspective around it. So so what I've learned is that when I find myself in these states of mind, I take a step back, take a deep breath, recenter myself, acknowledge where I'm at, and say, I'm I'm accepting where I am. And as soon as I give myself the as soon as I give myself permission to accept where I am, it immediately starts to dissipate. It immediately starts to change because um, all of that is a clinging on, an attachment to some sort of thought, feeling, or emotion. And we all do this. We all do this because we have brains that just go, especially for business owners, entrepreneurs, people that are always on the go, 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 go. Your mind is always moving. You always have stuff coming and going. And then, and we don't ever get out of our mind and, into our heart centers. And, because, we're always in this like, gotta go mentality. And so you have thoughts and feelings and emotions that come and then they get stuck. And then they for whatever reason, we cling on to them. And then the clinging and the attachment of these negative thought patterns and negative feelings and emotions, the hanging on to them is what causes the suffering, right? If we're able to just acknowledge the negative thought, say, oh, here is this thing thinking again about this thing. I'm just going to acknowledge that this is this thing thinking about it. This is this thing having this emotion again. Disassociating yourself with I'm not having that thought. I'm not having that emotion. It's this thing doing it again. It goes away. As soon as I make that acknowledgement, it starts to dissipate. And then something else comes, you know? And then 10 minutes later, you have a completely new thought, And so like being able to disassociate yourself from being that thought, that feeling, that emotion, and knowing that it's not you inherently, it's not you that's doing that thinking, it's the mind is not you. And then being able to say, okay, I'm accepting it, I'm acknowledging that it's there, and now I'm going to be with it. And as soon as I'm able to be with it instead of pushing it away, it dissipates, it goes away, and it leaves space for other things.
It's
Sorry, I
good to
just went
have.
on for a long time there.
You did great. You did great. Every bit of this is gold. And guys, I hope that you have been taking notes like mad, So I would be remiss if I let you go without asking you, for someone who has no idea what you truly mean when you say get centered, how do they do that?
Most people run on autopilot all day, right?
Mhm.
And they don't even realize that you're caught up in some sort of a thought pattern or a negative motion or negative headspace. So the first thing to do is to recognize that something is happening, right? That's the first thing. We can't do anything without acknowledgement. You have to find a way to be able to acknowledge what's happening in the current moment, right? Instead of just running on autopilot. And so I call these guideposts or stop signs where the minute that you're able to acknowledge that you're in a negative thought pattern, picture like a stop sign coming up, like or some sort of like a signpost, right? And you're able to just put a post in the ground and say, here is this thing that I acknowledged, and name it. Name it. Here is this thing thinking again. Here is this thought. Here is this feeling. This thing is being negative right now. Right. And then as soon as you're able to acknowledge it, then you stop, take a step back, take a deep breath, maybe two deep breaths, and say to yourself, this is this thing thinking again. And then just be with it and see how it feels. The cool thing about this stuff is that you don't have to be a certain thing or be some sort of a pro at any of this. We get the ability and the opportunity to try this stuff for fun, right?
Yeah.
You can just put on your cape and say, right now, with my cape on, I'm going to see what it feels like to just be with this emotion. And then I'm going to see what it feels like, and then I'm going to let it go, and then I'm going to take the cape off, and then I can go back to my monkey mind again. But for this moment in time, I'm going to put my cape on, and I'm going to sit here and think about it for a second with full acceptance and no judgment, and just see what it
It's
feels like.
brilliant. It's
Yeah,
brilliant advice. It truly is. And guys, what we do instead of what Jim is so wisely recommending is we stuff it in this cave, and we think that we put stuff it down in there, and we're guys, the issues are in the tissues. I know you've heard me say that before, but when you stuff stuff down, it's going to bite you. I promise it will bite you. So instead of stuffing it down and waiting till later and having this stack, how many of you got stacks like this of papers all over your desk, right? That's inside of you too. And so what he's recommending is just absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that.
for sure. For sure. And then just one other quick thought on that is that what people don't realize is that um, the impact that like that simple exercise creates. Because when the perfect analogy is stuffing it in, right? When you stuff something in, is there any room left for anything else? Where do you put it? Where do you put it? As opposed to letting it all go and having your bubble go from this to this and watching it get bigger. And if you are concerned about being good at business, and if you're concerned about having resources like money and retirement and generational wealth, how do you think that's going to get created in a box that's already full?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can't happen. It can't happen. And the reason why I'm able to create the success that I have now is because I've learned to empty my box,
Mhm.
you know?
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Not easy at all. And I don't mean to make it sound that way. You know, I don't mean to make it sound like this is an easy thing to do. It's very, very simple. So simple, in fact, that most people will think it's too simple to do because it has to be more complicated.
Hmm.
But it is very simple and also very difficult at the same time.
So you mentioned just a little recap. You mentioned breathing, you mentioned meditation, are and one other thing you said are crucial. What was the third one? Did you say a third one?
Acceptance, learning. So
Acceptance.
yeah, acceptance, but also the very first step is acknowledgement of that certain thought, feeling, or emotion that you're having that's causing a negative impact. What happens for the most part is that we have a negative thought, we create a behavior to try to suppress that negative thought, and then that behavior creates our personality, right?
And that's how we
So
end up addicted.
that's how we end up with addictive negative behaviors. We have a negative thought, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'll never succeed, I'm a horrible person, I'll never be a good father, I'm not going to be a good husband, all of the things, right? All of the things. I can't lead people, I'll never make money. We have those thoughts, and then we create a behavior to deal with that thought. Uh, Surfing the internet, drinking, smoking, caffeine, any chemical, eating, not sleeping properly, scrolling on your phone, anything to get rid of the thought. We turn the thought into a behavior, and that behavior starts running your life.
And so you just have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
We, like you said, we're on autopilot so often. We could go on for literally, I believe we could go on for days nonstop. And pretty much every time
Probably.
we get on a call like this, we do go on. And so if you guys want to hear more from Jim, you got to let me know. You got to put that in the show notes. The best way to get a hold of either one of us is to just write your notes into the YouTube page. Think Your Way to an Epic Life on YouTube, and either one of us can answer your questions or your comments if you want to get a hold of either of us. We've got all of Jim's information below, so you can find him if you're looking for the best Kansas City realtor out there. He's the man. He will help. He will help you, your family, your friends. Jim, before I let you go, I always ask this question to everyone: what is one way that our listeners can think their way to their own epic life?
Know that you are an amazing human being, and that the only reason why you think otherwise is because of some life circumstance has caused you to feel that way. And deep down in your core, you're an amazing, amazing human being, and you have an infinite level of potential buried inside of you that's just waiting to come out.
That's hopeful. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm not talking about the hope where you just sit and go, and everything comes to you. That is not what either one of us is talking about. Everything that Jim talked about, and I guarantee you he will back me up on this, for him to climb out of that pit, that was the hardest work he's ever done in his life. And this is a Marine. Am I right?
It was much more difficult than the Marine Corps.
So it's not easy, and it's so worth it. I
It
mean,
was very fulfilling.
I mean, Jim, if you look back and you had not made those hard choices, and you had just given up and kept on doing the drugs and whatever, well, you probably still wouldn't be here. But can you imagine how many people's lives didn't get impacted by you?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think about my wife who watched me go through that whole thing and stuck by me the whole time. And if I wouldn't have gotten through that, the life that I would have left her with, you know,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I think about that all the time because there were many times where I didn't think I was going to make it.
Yeah.
And what a
Oh yeah.
shame. What a shame that would have been.
Right. Right. And it would be for you too, guys. Please just put this as your favorite and watch this over and over. Take notes and just start. Take a couple steps of what he said. You're not going to do it all tomorrow. It doesn't happen that way. You build up your muscles, but just start, please. Are there any last words you've got for our listeners, Jim?
Don't make it difficult. Not like I know that we talked about a lot of stuff, but really it's just as simple as taking a deep breath. Literally, all you have to do is stop and take 3 seconds to take a deep breath, and it will instantly change your state of mind. Really, that's all it takes.
Truly, it's fact, guys. It's fact. Good stuff. Jim, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.